is basically a form of AI that allows us to generate new content. It is basically a type of AI that, or a branch of AI that allows us generate new content. This new content could be generated from an input or mostly generated from an input. And this content could either be a text, it could be an image, could be a code, could be anything at all. Like you could generate code, generate music, generate audio, generate video as well, right? And then I believe we talked about Gemini, and Gemini is Google's to attempt to undo or to achieve generative AI. Before Gemini, or along with Gemini, we have the OpenAI ChatGPT, which is another model entirely for handling generative AI. But Gemini, Vertex, and the likes are Google's attempts to generative AI. Gemini is an LLM. You might have or might not have heard LLM before. It is a large language model by Google AI. It is capable of text generation, of course, images, as I've mentioned earlier, and it have access to a vast amount of information. So you can literally ask Gemini anything, except for it to translate a text to Igbo. As I tried doing that today, but uh, it didn't work. So I mean, that's still work in progress. Gemini, on the other hand, is not a sentient being. That is, it is not a conscious being. It is not a replacement for human creativity, not yet. It is not an oracle like Google, and it is not physical. So, and we all know what Flutter is, right? Flutter is a cross-platform technology for building apps on Android devices, desktop devices, and even embedded devices. So today we would be talking about, like I said, we'll be talking about the practical aspects. We'll be getting to build, and let's get right into it. This evening we'll be building an app. Oh, and by the way, yesterday I asked you guys to share with me if you have an idea on what to build in tonight's session, but I didn't get any response. So we are just simply going to stick with what I intended to build. So we are going to build a simple app. And what this simple app does is it is going to accept a prompt. It is going to accept an input from us or a query. It's going to accept a queries or queries such as food, programming, engineering, architecture, and it is going to help us generate a list of article ideas from that text or that phrase. So if we type in something, it's going to help us generate a list of article ideas from that. So, and this list will be random, actually. So before I move on to my screen, my coding screen, can you guys see my screen? Okay, that's great. So before we start building with Gemini, we are going to look at what we currently have. So this app is called Article Idea Generator. To walk you through, since we'll be having an engineering session, the app is basically a single page app with the Gemini demo view. The state management is of course handled with set states, right? We handle the loading view and the data view. So if we have data, it is displayed here on the single page. We must type something here before we click, before we check our prompt. Otherwise, we are going to get an error and so on and so forth. And then we have this repository. You will notice that when we attempt to fetch, we try to call this fetch article ideas and we set it at the end of the day. So this fetch article idea article's idea is present here in this repository. And for now, what we simply do, or what we did, was to generate 10 list of article ideas with the index. So if I didn't type anything, as I've said, I get this. But let's just type something random for now, since this is not working as we want yet. So we get article idea 0 to 9. So now let's talk about how to achieve this in Flutter, how to work with the Gemini models or model in Flutter. So to work with Gemini model in Flutter, you use a tool called the Google Generative AI. We use a tool called the Google Generative AI, and Google Generative AI is present on pub.dev. So we head over to pub.dev, we type Google Generative AI. We go to the page. I'm going to get here like in a few minutes, but for now, we simply want to add Google Generative AI to our project. And we verify that it is here and we are good to go. But that is not just it. That is not all. So we need to do some extra steps as well. Before we can use the Google Generative AI, we need something called an API key. We need this API key. So to use or to get an API key, you need to head over here, right? So we can head over to the link and we see how to get an API key. You just simply need to click here and you can create an API key. One more step before you can create an API key is that you need to head over to Google Cloud Console. Oh, not this. Google Cloud Console, yeah, this. And you click on the to access the console. And you are going to the new project from here. Someone raised his hand. Do you have any? Yeah,
Yeah,
proceed, please.
sorry. Can you zoom in on your screen a bit? It's the text are kind of small. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So you proceed to Google Cloud Console. You click to create a new project. We can go back, right? You click on this. You click to create a new project, right? You enter your project name. You use this billing account, like the trial billing account, and you create. Because I already have a Google Cloud Console project, I won't be creating a Google Cloud Console project. Another thing you need to note here is if you have a Firebase project, you do not need to create that Google Cloud project, right? So you can just go ahead to create an API key. So the next step after creating your Google Cloud project or a Firebase project, if you are using Firebase for other things in your project, is you go to create API key. Let me attempt to make this big as well. So you click on create API key, you select the project you have just created. So if you reload this page, you are going to see all your Google Cloud projects. Then you select the one you are interested in. And then after selecting it, you click create. So after creating, it's going to show you the key, and you can also copy the key from here. Right. So let me find my key. I think we have a project called Gemini. Or let me simply just create a new project. Sorry. Google Cloud Console, new project, Gemini demo, create. Okay, let's reload. Gemini. Hmm. Interesting. Am I logged into my account?
It has appeared.
Has it? Okay, probably some syncing issues. Thank you very much. So, and we get our API key. So for the purpose of this class, please don't screenshot my API key. Well, I'm going to delete the project anyways, but then your API key is supposed to be a secret. You shouldn't expose it anywhere. And for the purpose of this class, we are going to simply just have our API key somewhere here. So we already have our key. So what next do we need to do? So we go back to pub.dev as we always do for any package we want to use, just to read some documentation on how to use the package that we are about to use. So you see that simply you add the package, you assign your API key, you can get it, you can read it from an environment file. You get your model, you pass in your API key, you select the type of model, you enter your prompts, you construct your prompts, you generate your content, and you get your response. That's how simple it is to use Gemini in your Flutter project. So let's do this step by step in our project. So we have done all of these 4 steps. We've gone through generative AI. We've introduced what Google gave us for generative AI. We have created a new Google Cloud project, and we have gotten our API key. So now, let's talk about the different types of models that we have. So we have the Gemini Pro, which is capable of generating texts. We have the Gemini Vision Pro, which is capable of identifying images and generating something out of that, identifying text and images. We have Gemini 1.5, 1.0, and those variations, the various versions that we have that as well. And we have Vertex as well. So now at this point, I want to explain the difference between Vertex and Gemini, and Gemini Pro, Gemini Vision Pro, and so on as we hear it. So Vertex AI and Gemini Generative AI, they are what I call model accessors. So they are not the actual models. So let me show you what you see here, the generative model. They are like objects that allows us to access different models. So they are accessors. So generative model allows us to access Gemini Pro and some other models. And Vertex or Firebase Vertex AI, as we have it, it allows us to access even more advanced models as well. So for businesses and the likes, as we will hear tomorrow, right? So in our case, we are exploring Gemini, the generative model. So yeah, we simply remove all of this. We return an empty list at the moment. And what we want to do is, at first, we want our model. The model is like the brain. It contains everything we need to perform our action. And the action could be generating a prompt, it could be starting a chat, like chatting with Gemini, like we do at gemini.com. It could be passing in an image to generate, a text or anything at all. So generative model accepts 2 things: the type of model we are interested in and the API key. So let's bring our API key, as it is important at this point now. API key. Again, please don't ever put your API key in your project like this. So for our model, we just simply need the Gemini Pro, and our model is ready. So what are the actions we can perform on the model? The various actions we can perform on the model are generate content, which is to generate prompts, which we will be using. But before I proceed, I would like to just show you other things you can do with the model, which is you can start a chat, and this chat will give you access to your chat history and so on and so forth. That's the kind of, and it will maintain the history. That's the kind we use when we are interacting with the Gemini on the web. And it has a couple of other methods as well that we can use, set prompts and so on and so forth. But now we and generate content stream, which returns the content as a stream. So in our case, we want to generate content based on a prompt. Now, what is this prompt? Generate content based one position argument. Yeah, a prompt. Oh, sorry. Generate content based on the prompt. The prompt accepts a list, and that's because you can enter as many prompts as possible. You could enter the text, your image, in badges, and so on and so forth. So a prompt object is written like this. So you enter your content dot text for simple text. If you want to pass in an image, content dot multi for images, and you pass in your images as multi-parts, right? And so on and so forth. But what we care about in this class is the content.text, as we will be passing a text prompt. So before moving on with this step, there is something I like to do, and that's to first make sure that the prompt is perfect outside the context of this app before I bring it into the app. And I do that here at this point. So you go back to the AI Studio at the point where you were asked to create your API key. And again, to get here, you need this URL, ai.google.dev/tutorial/setup. So you simply come here, you click on create new prompt, and you click on chat prompt. And this is basically just like ChatGPT, but more focused. And you can also select the kinds of models you want to use, Gemini 1 Pro, Flash, and 1.5 Flash, and so on. You can set the temperature, you can edit the safety settings, and so on. So what do we want to do? We want to tell this to return, just simple text, return 10 random article ideas based on the following text. Can you see my screen, by the way? Okay. Yeah, I just want to ensure that it's not too tiny. Based on the following text. And this text is the dynamic text that we were talking about earlier. It could be food, could be programming, could be anything. But let's say food, since I like food. So let's run this. So it returns 10 lists. Let's try it again because we want this to be random, right? Let's ensure that this is random. So now we get another text entirely, which is different from this. It meets that requirement. The next is that I notice that I see a number here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10. I don't like it. This doesn't look good in the app. I can as well pass all of this into the app and remove the numbers, but if there is a way to remove it from here, why not? So I want to add another rule, which is to return only the list without any title or formatting, or wait, sorry, return any title or any form of numbering, right? Or formatting. Because sometimes this end up, after removing the numbers, it ends up having asterisks, at the back. And then let me just emphasize that we want just plain text. And then we run. Now it returns everything, but now it is shorter. So I can go ahead and copy this again and maybe remove the just plain text. And let's see how it performs. Now it's a little bit better, but let's continue. So now I see that it is returning a bullet list even after I had asked it to remove any form of numbering or formatting. So I can go ahead and say it should replace the bullet point with a new line, maybe. Okay. Chin. Oh, sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your name. You have a question?
Yeah. It's any form of numbering or formatting.
Oh, thank you very much. I guess I missed the English. Uh, let's see. Hmm. Looks like Gemini is stubborn here. Thank you very much.
Just
Okay, Taiwo.
just say remove bullet points. You should not be stubborn.
Okay, remove. Okay, let's see. Remove the bullet point. And let's see. Let's use a more capable model and see how it performs. The Gemini 1.5 Flash. Let's see. So there is something I wanted to show at this point, and that's the fact that sometimes this, even with the prompt that you have passed in, it keeps giving you like the same thing, right? Like it keeps giving you this, we've tried remove or replace this with a new line, we've tried to remove bullet point, but it still keeps giving us this. Maybe it's not as capable. Maybe that's number one. Maybe I am not the best prompt engineer. I might be I might be a very good mobile engineer, but I might not be the best prompt engineer. This prompt engineering is something that some people learn. Like they actually learn how to do it properly. And again, like I said, I am not the best when it comes to engineering prompts. So because I don't want to stress myself, I went ahead to use a more capable model, which is the Gemini 1.5 Flash latest. Right. So now that we have our prompts, let's pass it on into the app or into our app. I am going to create another method, which is generate prompts. And the reason why I'm creating this is because we have a dynamic value, which is this guy, which is food, right? It can be food, it can be programming, it can be anything. So we want to return a multi-line string like this. I am sure that you guys know what this is, right? Uh, this is how to represent a string that is across multiple lines. Ella, yeah.
Hi, good evening, Dev Jamie. Please,
Good evening.
I'm enjoying the class so far, but your VS Code, can you like I can't, yeah, just increase it a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It was an oversight. I should have. done that. But can everybody see it like this?
Thank you. I think it's fine like this. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there is anything that is not clear enough, you can stop me at any point in time. We have a lot of time to do this. No worries. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
So another side from my end. So we have the query, the string, which is meant to be dynamic. So we use this to ensure that we pass this here, which is dynamic, and what we want to return is a string. So this is our prompt. So in some apps as well, where I have suffered a lot to create this prompt, I usually hide this prompt as well. Along with my API key, I also put my prompt somewhere that users can access. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to come uh, to prepare this, and then you will just come copy it and use it in your app. No, I won't accept that. But then that's just by the way. In some apps, I hide this as well, but for simplicity, we can just place this here. So now I said generate prompt. So generate prompts, I can pass it along here and pass it with my query. So you get the result in something called a result. Generate content response. Okay. Someone raised the hands. You can go ahead. Okay. I'll take that as a no. So you await the method call, generate content, and you expect the result in this generate content response. So this result, let's go ahead to print the result. Result, we can access the response by text, result.text. Yeah, we are generating text, right? So let's type A and let's click here. I will need to bring the console up. Yeah. New terminal, debug console. Yeah, and then we see this, a fascinating history of evolution, exploring this, that, and so on, like that. So we already have our text in the app, but we need a way for us to represent this as a list in the app. So that's straightforward. From here on, we are done with anything generative AI, honestly. We are left with just pure that. So pure that in the sense that all we need to do here is to take our results, find our article ideas, will be results dot uh, result dot text dot splits. So since text is a string, so we want to split the text. We want to split it as a new line. Since this guy, you see, we are printing per new line. So we want to split this as a new line. And that is basically it. So our list of article ideas will be a string, list of string, or list of nullable string because it can be empty. Then we simply just come here, we pass our list of article ideas or empty list. So now this is something I want to mention at this point. The reason why this is this simple is that we are currently exploring how to use the generative model, how to use what the model offers us, how to the different kind of prompts or the different kind of prompts that we can create, right? There are more to this, more to it in the sense that we might expect that this will give us text always, like all of this text. But at some point, it can just hallucinate and not give us exactly what we want. Then we want to, handle error properly, use try and catch. When there is an error, we return an empty article ideas, or we simply just throw an error, right? But for the sake of this class, we will just end the method here, right? So now let's go ahead and type something real now. Like, I don't want to type food anymore. So I want to type programming. So when I click this, then it's going to return all of this list to me. So something I want to try real quick, because even I have only used Gemini Pro like up until now as a demo. Let me see if Gemini Flash is available here. So to use it, you just copy the name here. I see Gemini on that's Gemini dash 1.5 dash Flash latest, and let's save and let's restart. And now let's type programming, and then let's do this again. Flash latest is also giving me dash. But anyways, when you get a better prompt engineer, maybe this will return something better. But we end it here as for the prompt engineering. So the other things that you can do with this generate content, things like setting the safety settings. So safety settings such as safety settings accept a list. I know. So, and it accept the safety setting objects, and you can set the arm category dot dangerous content, arm threshold dot high or low. So how does it, like the safety settings, like how should they filter some of this content? Like should it block dangerous content? Should it be indifferent about it, or should it not care about it at all, right? And there are other arm categories that you can check: harassment, hate speech, sexually explicit, and so on. And you can select low, medium, or high for it as well. Another thing I wish you should be able to do is this generation config, where you can set things like response mime type, and you can select things like application.json. Unfortunately, this is not available on generative model. You can only use this with the Firebase Vertex SDK. So this will be the end of this class. For now, I will allow for questions, and I will be sharing resources on how to learn more with generative AI at the end of the questions. Yeah, Gideon, please.
Okay, good evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Jami, for the
Yeah,
teaching in the class. I I have not I don't have a question concerning the class. Like I noticed something on your VS Code. I want to ask, like, what extension do you use to generate suggestions? Not like if you're typing something, there is a way, how do I put it?
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Like it predicts what
No,
I
no,
want to do next.
yeah, it's just like what I'm seeing now. That
Yeah,
like
it's Copilot actually. It's another type of generative AI, right? So yeah, it is another type of generative AI. These are the things that you can use generative AI to do, right? You can use it to do almost anything, right? There are more
right.
coming. I don't want to give spoilers, but there are more coming from the African communities, Flutter community, like what we'll be building with generative AI in the coming months, which we'll be sharing with you guys. But yeah, your answer is Copilot. Yeah, that's what is
Thank
making that. Yeah. So yeah, and also for the person asking, yeah, for the source code I'm going to be sharing. For the person who asked, let me start from the beginning. Okay, Taiwo. Thank you very much, Taiwo. I'm just trying my best to explain as much as I can. So how to hide prompt and API keys, right? So how to hide prompt and API keys, we use what is called that define. So you can use that define you simply just create an environment file, right? Environment.json file, right? This environment.json file, you will exclude it from your gitignore. Env.json, right? You exclude it from your gitignore, not to commit it to your GitHub. And then this is where you put those two keys, like API keys, API key. You place your API key here, API key here, whatever the API key is, anyways, and then your prompt, and then you put your prompt here as well, right? So, and this, you, when you are starting your project, you are going to be starting your project with this guy. So there is a command which I need to find. I don't. So a command. So when you want to run your project, you have that run. That, let me just get it from one of my projects, the actual article idea generator. Launch.json. So you use this guy. So when you are running your project, you use that define from file. And you pass the file, which is the m.json. So this is how you run your project. And if you don't want to always do this every time, that's when you create a file similar to the one I create here. And I will have to rush this because this is not in the scope of this lecture. We can have a lecture to do this, or I can share you resources on how to do this if you want to learn. So I can share you resources of how to actually do this. So you create this configuration file, and it will give you a way to run your project. Like when you come here to run your project, you can run with this, this, or this. So when you run on your debug mode, it will run this command automatically. And in your project, you just need to, the way you will access it would be to use something like this, string from environment. And that's how you access your API keys. So in your code, this is what people will see. When you're accessing this, it will be giving you the content of this. You get the idea. So like I said, I will be sharing you resource if you want on how to achieve this, or you can use a package called that env or Flutter env, I think. So, but this is the way I would recommend to handle environment variables. So next question would be, although, yeah, I will allow you to ask a question. I want to go through the chats first. Christian, Code Whisperer, can we get the source code? Definitely, I will share the source code with you. What happens when you want to release on the App Store? Does it? Oh yeah, you can still. There is a way you pass in your m.json. No worries. So there is a way you can pass it through. In the resource that I will send you, you'll be able to see everything on how to achieve this, like from development to production, right? So now, Kristen, I think you can go ahead.
Thank you, Sir Jamil, for the lecture. It was really insightful. Just looking at the production setting application of this. So
Mhm.
we are, in definite normal production applications, we have APIs that we call, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, our data is always coming from backend. So I'm
Yes.
looking at in a way where we are integrating this with the production application. So I think this application now is talking directly to the model, the Gemini Pro and whatnot. So in the
Yeah.
production settings, we won't be doing this, right? Like if in a real production, if we have APIs or we have a backend, it should be routed through the backend, if I'm correct. Or what do you think?
Okay, I see. I see what you're saying, right? If I were you, if I want to achieve something with the generative model, the Gemini Pro 1.5 or whatever, right? Any of the models, I would rather use this SDK rather than relying on the backend. And I will explain. So if you check all of these methods, like if you go deep into what the package does, briefly, let me see, but yeah, if you go into what the package does or the SDK does, it is making a request at the end of the day. Like it is calling, see, HTTP client. So it is making a request to the Gemini, like to the model server somewhere. So if you build it with your own backend, like if you invest the time that, okay, I want to replicate this, then that is fine, but that is double work, you get, unless you want to do more with the data. So rather than saying, okay, I just want to simply generate content, maybe you want to work with the AI agents, for example, like it's part of the resources I'll share, like the AI agent and the likes, where when you want your generated content to not only depend on what Gemini provides, you want it to pick data from somewhere else, like maybe Wikipedia, maybe Google, maybe your own data source as well, your own database as well. Then maybe you can build something from the backend. You get the idea. So, but otherwise, I would always go with this. 100%, because at the end of the day you will be doing the same thing, like you will be calling the same endpoints or the same API. This is a wrapper around an API as well. So it's like, instead of calling Firebase directly, like listening to WebSocket directly in Firebase, I would rather use the Cloud Firestore package or the Firebase auth package. You get, so this is a convenient class or a convenient object to allow you interact with the various kinds of models that you have. You get the idea. So even in production, you can use these models. So I would rather just say, rather than using this, which is more simpler and restrictive, I would advise that you use the Firebase Vertex AI SDK instead. So Firebase Vertex AI, and I believe Becca would be touching that tomorrow as well. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So
All right.
the only other thing I can think of right now is probably in popular languages and their frameworks, probably they have packages like this for those particular languages so that the backend can actually harness this package that we have here on this side. So because Google, they will definitely do support other languages, right? So they will probably create packages for Node, depending on the backend time. So I was just thinking of that. So probably we can also do that too, so that we don't have to write all this logic all over again by ourselves.
Exactly. Thank you for asking that. It's something that I almost forgot to mention because we have been talking about Flutter all along, but there is definitely, like, there is a package or there is an SDK for all the popular frameworks, especially the client frameworks. In fact, we also have for the backend, like JavaScript in the backend. We have for Android, we have for iOS, which is Kotlin, which is written in Kotlin and Swift. We have Flutter, we have what's it called? JavaScript. And in fact, maybe now that we are talking about this, we can start exploring the resources gradually. So we have this called flutter.dev/AI, which is a new page that was created by the Flutter team for you to learn about their offerings on the generative AI. They have the Google AI data SDK, which we just used, and they have the Vertex AI that SDK for Firebase, which is in preview, but you can always try it out. So there is something I want to quickly show you. Yes. Look at all of this. To use the Gemini API, you get the Python SDK, which you can follow here. You get the Node SDK, you get the Go SDK, that's Android, Swift, Web, even REST, right? So you can use the SDK in any of these languages. You get the idea. So yeah, that's just by the way. All right. So Pam Joseph, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but did you say we can't use Firebase and Gemini in the same app? Oh, you can. I didn't say you can't. You can. I didn't say you can. So what I was saying is, just as we use Firebase to use the cloud more conveniently, right? Like we use the SDK, the Firebase SDKs to access the cloud more conveniently. This is a wrapper around the endpoint written. Like so this is an endpoint, right? You consider it an endpoint. This endpoint accepts the model type and the prompt. And based on what we pass in, is going to return something to us, right? That's the endpoint. We can use HTTP or DO to call this endpoint. But okay, we are deciding not to. What we want to do is, since we know that this endpoint is predictable, we want to build something around this endpoint. So whenever we ask, we won't have to worry about, those strings, those paths and the likes. What we will worry about is just calling a method, generate content, and we are good. Not calling a method get, which is not intuitive enough, which is not convenient enough, you get. So it is a wrapper around the infrastructure, like the endpoint for Google Generative AI. You get the idea. So you can use Firebase. I have built an app in the past for generating content for small businesses, which uses both Firebase and Google Generative AI. So you can definitely use both. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So let me drop those two resources. So this is the Flutter AI page, and this is the page where I got the API key and where you can also construct the prompts. So I will be sharing the resource on how to undo, how to work with environment variables in your data applications, Flutter and data applications. I'll be sharing that later in the community. So that's basically it. If there are no other questions, we can take a picture. Can we? Any other questions before we end the class officially? Okay. Since there are no other questions, can we turn on our cameras to take? Oh, I guess you are not in the Flutterbyte community. So that would be a little bit difficult. Please message. You can send me a DM on Twitter at this. So maybe I can share them with you directly or share the link to the community with you. So we share information in the community like by default. So, but I can share with you directly. So you can just send a message to me on Twitter and yeah, we'll move from there. All right. So let's turn your TP. All right. So let's take pictures. Nobody is turning on their camera. Miriam, are you there? Bright, Gideon.
Yes, I
Ella,
am here. So sorry,
Azan,
my network has been
Sumaya.
glitching. So let us take our today's class was very, very interesting, honestly. Right. It was very, very, please, if you did not get anything, I feel like you're missing a lot. So I
Taiwo.
hope we're able to get a lot of things and we don't have questions for developer Jamie again. If you have questions, please ask our questions. Ask question. This person that said band e user no get light. Now since yesterday na no get light.
I will take the screenshot anyways.
Okay, let me put on my camera. Can you see me?
I can see you. Okay, I just took two pictures. We'll be sharing them with you, Miriam.
Those of you
Wait,
that did
please
not
wait
show,
them
no
down
sweets for
you.
you.
Wait for
Remember,
me.
no sweets for you. If you not
There
put
is
on your
something,
camera, there's no sweets for you.
yeah, there is something I want to show. I want to share though, since we are here, and I think Miriam mentioned yesterday, but we should keep talking about it, right? So after these all sessions, like after the three sessions, the intro, the Gemini, and the Vertex AI, we are going to be having a challenge, an AI challenge where you just build something interesting with the generative AI or maybe the chat SDK as well. You can explore more after this class. In fact, as simple as you see it, right? I think you should be able to explore more. Just check what are the various prompts I can do, what are the various actions I can do with this, right? So and try to build something. You can start thinking of something to build from now, so you can compete in the mini hackathon, right? And eventually compete in the global hackathon as well. So the global hackathon, if you are one of the winners, you will win a car along with 260, I think 60K USD. So it is a huge price, right? Best Flutter project, 50,000 USD, and so on and so forth. There is a lot of prizes for everyone, right? So yeah, we encourage you to participate in our hackathon and also the global hackathon, which will be ending by August. So that is that about that from me. You can do team, you can do solo. More details will be coming soon from Miriam. And for the global hackathon, I don't have the link. I guess we'll be sharing the link also in the community if we haven't shared them already. All right. So anything for me, guys, before we end today's class and you know do other things.
So in absence of no questions and no comments, we're going to end this call for tonight. And also someone was asking if the project is solo. So we're going to announce like the details about the challenge, right? I don't know if you should do solo. It can be solo, it can be group if you want to join someone. So thank you everyone. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last workshop, Vertex AI, and I think you should be there. Don't miss it. So I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Yeah, good night. Thank you.